Is the mic on? Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. All right, so my watch says 9:30. I don't know about yours, but I think we're good to go. So a couple of announcements first. First announcement is the ACM, the student group that's associated with the Department of Computer Science, is having a meeting tonight, 5 o'clock upstairs, that's 121. The operative words are free pizza. So if you're interested in meeting IOCS students, please come to the ACM meeting. I forget what the topic is tonight, the machine learning walkthrough, but I forget what they have scheduled exactly. They meet regularly, and they're actually planning, and they've done much of the planning for the UI Computing Conference, which is held, I believe it's the last weekend of February, Friday and Saturday. And there will be talks from people outside the university, so reasonably big name computer science people, and then there will be social events in the evening. So I'll post that, or I'll advertise it in class. I urge you to consider attending. If you're going to be a CS major, data science major, CS&E major, this is the kind of group you should probably consider being associated with. Okay, so Friday was a crappy day. The lecture was 11 seconds long. I was so surprised to see that. I don't know what happened. I'm hoping, let me double check. That seemed to be recording, so I'm hoping it doesn't happen again today. I came in Saturday and re-recorded the lecture, so you have the lecture from Friday. The second time today was much faster, so I think I was rushing. I apologize, but you can slow it down if you have to. But at least the material is there. So for today, you should have read Chapter 5, with the exception of sections 5.8 to 5.10, or in Python for Everyone, you should have read Chapter 3. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Let me read this again. The reading assignment for Wednesday is Chapter 8 in Think Python, or alternatively Chapter 6 in Python for Everyone, and there will be a reading assignment for Friday. So we're going to pick up the pace a little bit. Now we're really churning through different Python data types. I don't want to spend all semester talking about what an integer is. We're going to do something more fun. So we'll be moving pretty quickly now. It's good for you to keep up on the readings. And once you've read it and you cover the same material in class, we obviously don't cover everything that's in the book in class. We don't go through every string operation. You should go back and read them again. Make sure that you should have some facility with the material in the book. So question in day 1 was due today at 9 a.m. So a bunch of you turned it in. Was it overly hard? Should have been fairly straightforward. I'll show you the solution in a minute. Tomorrow is Lab 1. I'm going to say a few words about Lab 1 tomorrow. And let me just start by saying, when you go into Lab 1, we actually do labs in pairs. So you will be assigned a partner in the lab. And the partner will change every week. So there's a random algorithm, assignment algorithm. The TAs get the random assignments in the morning. You walk in, they'll be on the screen. Find your seat, find your partner, and you work together. You turn in one assignment for the two of you. All right? In rare occasions, there will be a group of 3 because there's an odd number of people in the class. But basically, you come in, find your seat, find your partner, and you turn in one assignment, and you both get the same grade. All right, so this is the first real lab. I'll spend a minute talking about how this works. First of all, I apologize, the icon has labeled lab starting by counting with the number 1. But as I told you at the beginning, computer scientists like to start counting with the number 0. So last week was lab 0 because it didn't count. But icon on the calendar says that was lab 1. So it'll always be off by 1 counting errors in the calendar, and I apologize for that. Actually, it's good practice to deal with off by 1 errors. You'll be doing it a lot. So you have to go to your section. The reason you have to go to your section is we don't have all that many seats. So you have to go to the section you're assigned to or you signed up for. Moreover, the assignment gets released 5 minutes before the start of class, and is due at the end of class. You don't get to take it home. So if you go to the wrong section, you won't even have access to the assignment through ICON. So you get paired with the other student. Now, we should talk about masks a minute. First of all, the party line is the university strongly encourages you to mask. I see many of you are masked. I appreciate that because I'm masked. I think it's good public health policy. Tomorrow you're going to be working closely with another student, and it's inevitable there will be some differences in perspectives on masking. As a student, you are allowed to ask your partner to wear a mask if you feel you have to. As a university, I can't ask you that. But as students, you can. And I would ask that all students be respectful of each other's preferences so that we can work collaboratively in a good way. If for some reason you guys cannot agree on masking status to work together, raise your hand, tell the TA, and he will arrange a swap if he can. All right? So that would be how we have to deal with it. I ask you all to be adult and respectful. Okay, so what does Lab 1 look like? It looks a lot like question of the day 1, except there are 5 problems, and they're all a little bit trickier than the one in question of the day 1. And what I would suggest you do is that you take turns leading the work. If you have a partner, one of you types question 1 and the second one kibitzes, makes suggestions, you discuss when you get stuck, and then for the second question, switch seats. So in the literature on pedagogy and computer science, this is called paired programming. It is a hint of the future kind of software engineering methodologies you might use, where even in companies like Google, where you're sitting down and working on a project, you will work with a person sitting next to you to watch over your shoulder, ask you questions, and provide insights. And it's common to switch back and forth. These are usually called the driver and the navigator. Just partners. Take turns. Be respectful. And collaborate. This is your chance to sort of work through some of the issues you may have with somebody who's working through the same issues. It can be a very powerful way of learning and getting through stuff. And of course the TA will be there. If you're both stuck and you can't get through it, raise your hand. TA will be making the rounds of the room and will help you get unstuck. Finally, turn in just one copy of the shared assignment. Now, how do I know whose assignment it is? Well, many of you noticed on question of day 1 that there's a function at the beginning of the template file that's called signed, and that signed function had the word Hawk ID in it, which I asked you to replace with your Hawk ID. Tomorrow's lab will have a similar function, except instead of one Hawk ID in there, there'll be Hawk ID 1 and Hawk ID 2, and the obvious solution is for the two of you to place your names one in one and one in the other, your Hawk IDs. Now I chuckle every year when I teach this class because I say, add your Hawk IDs to the signed function, and every year I get an amazing mishmash of answers to what that Hawk ID is. So your Hawk ID is not your student ID number. So some of you gave me the text string for your student ID number. My autograder won't recognize that. It'll spit it out. So I will have to go look up on Maui who number 00123455 is and supply the Hawk ID. You can save me a lot of time by using your Hawk ID, which is your login identifier to all university systems. I'm not asking for your password. I'm not asking for your student ID. I'm asking for that combination of letters that looks a lot like your last name in most cases. So for example, for the question you know in homeworks, where you're working alone, the sign function would look something like this, although obviously that's not your Hawk ID because that's mine. All right? My wife is Elsager, so she would have a different Hawk ID taking the same function. And as we'll see today, this is just a sequence type. Right here, it's a sequence type with square brackets. Looks like a tuple, but with square brackets, that's a list. So what this function returns is a sequence type, a list of one element, which is a string. That string is your Hawk ID. When you're working in labs, when there's two of you, and these look like John and Rafine's Hawk IDs, they're not, I made them up. But this is what Hawk IDs would look like. This might be John Thede with the special P, right, that differentiates him from the other guy. This could be Racine. Sometimes you'll have digits. It's become more and more common. Hawk IDs are forever. Most of the time, it's some combination of letters from your last name, possibly with the first initial. You all know what I'm talking about, right? So when you see Hawk ID, don't give me student IDs, don't give me last names, give me legal Hawk IDs. And in this case, notice the square brackets and the comma. This is a two-element sequence type, list, two strings for the two Hawk IDs. In the rare event that you're in a group of three, you need to add a comma and another Hawk ID to that list. Okay. A few things more to talk about. For questionnaire day one, I gave you this kind of Python 3-ish, it's not exactly Python, it's close enough, browser-based environment. Why did I do that? I think the important thing about questionnaire days is that you do them, and you do them promptly. And so I don't want to saddle you with this sort of mechanism where you have to download the file, you have to find Anaconda, you have to choose an editor, you have to edit the file, you have to test it, you have to run it, and then you have to upload and submit it. I just made it one-stop shopping. Work in the browser. When it's done, download it and submit it, and you're done. But of course, you are welcome to use Anaconda, which you installed on your machine. You will find that as we go through the semester, as the homeworks get harder, some of the homeworks you have 3 weeks to do, you don't want to be working in the browser environment. You need to work in Anaconda. For the labs tomorrow, these are 5 simple questions. You could probably get away with the browser, but I would actually urge you to download it and practice working in Anaconda. And we'll show you how to do that in a minute, because I want you to see how to go through that. Now, in this class, I use IDLE, which is a very simple integrated development environment, or IDE, that comes with Python and is wrapped into Anaconda. Some of you have taken CSE 1110. Have a show of hands? 1110 people. You guys probably use Wing. Wing is a very nice IDE that has to be downloaded separately. You are all welcome to use Wing if you prefer to use Wing. I don't get to choose. It's up to you. But what I use in this class is IDLE, and I can help you with IDLE. I haven't used Wing for years, so it can be less help with Wing if you get stuck. The other choices that actually is part of Anaconda is Visual Studio Code, VS Code, which is sort of a successor to Virtual Studio. That is a cross-language integrated development environment that many of our students use throughout their undergraduate career. Some may think, and you may be right, that it's worth learning how to use that now so you can use it for the rest of your time here. IDLE only works for Python. VS Code is for Python, Java, C, any other language you might want to use. So find an environment you're happy with. I'm going to use IDLE because it's easier. In real world, in real life, I don't use IDLE. I don't use any of these others either. It's a very primitive text-based code editing environment and text processing environment that I've been using for 40 years. That's because I'm a really old dog and I don't like to learn new tricks, and it's natural for me to use it. You will find an editor you like, and it will become equally natural for you. So there isn't one answer here. All right, however you want to work on your code, I don't care if you work in the browser, if you work in Anaconda and VS Code or whatever, you do need to turn in the whole template file. Don't turn in the file with just a definition. For one thing, it won't have the sign function, and I won't know whose file that is. So it's always best to turn in the whole template file. Also because as we go through the semester, template file has a lot of text in it, a lot of comment text in it. You will be responsible for adding comments to the file as well. Because code doesn't live on its own, it's combined with text to help humans understand what the code does. And that's part of what we learn this semester. So I think for a questionnaire days, the easiest way is just work in the browser. For the labs, 6 and 1/2 dozen or whatever, I would probably download it and use it and work in IDLE. So let's see how this works. So I have here, this is that example I showed you the other day. Oops, that's not the right file. This is that example I showed you the other day. This is just the add 'em up function from class, remember? And what I would do, would change this to whatever name I want. The .py extension is important. It's what tells the operating system what kind of file it is if you're on Windows or even on a Mac. So I'm just going to download this instead of, if I were working in a browser environment, I would edit here, and when it runs, I would download it and submit it to Icon. But if I want to work in idle, I've got to download it first. I will be asked, it could hurt your computer, do you really want to keep it? And in a fit of just sheer unrestrained, whatever, I can't think of the word. I'm going to keep it. And then I'm going to open file. Now in this system, if I open the file, I will actually get a browser window that shows, let's let it. Let's just go to downloads. There we go. There's two. I will see the file in my download folder, and it already has a little Python symbol associated with it, meaning that double-clicking on this will open it in Python. But what I really want to do is I want to open this with idle. In fact, it shows up on my menu. And then I can see there's my idle development environment. I can edit the function in here. I can run the file, just like in the Pythonish environment. It asks me to save it. They run the file and they say, oops, you didn't give me the Hawk ID, so let's do that. And there it is, my solution passes all the test cases and so on. So you can see that at this point, I've saved the file because it won't let me run it when I don't save it. I've saved the file. I can just upload this file to Icon and I'm done. All right? The integrated environment in idle looks a lot like the environment that I have in the Python browser. It's just got more features. You like the text better. It colorizes the different types of Python stuff. Strings show up in green, commas show up in red, function names are blue. I think working in color is a lot easier. It helps you see stuff. If you leave out a string, you see that the green color extends to the end of that line. That's a cue to you that there's something wrong. If I put the string character back in, I see that that changes the color again. So there's all sorts of reasons to work in idle. It's a smoother experience. You would get a smoother experience in VS Code or in Word for those of you who used Word last semester. I don't care which one you use. Okay? But this should be a little bit of a head start for you. There are a lot of comments and chats about people not understanding how they could associate the file with their they didn't know how to associate oh, come on. This is the wrong one. There we go. Didn't know how to associate the file with come on.